Hi, I'm going to be talking about getting a diagnosis. So, how you can go about getting a diagnosis either for your child or for yourself, and why you might be considering doing that as well. So, I would say a general rule of why you might want to go for a diagnosis is that you've kind of done a bit of research into autism. You have a fairly good idea that some of the symptoms are kind of in tune with what your child or what you're going through, and obviously it is a spectrum, so everybody is different. But the key thing is that those issues are stopping you from enjoying a good quality of everyday life. So there could be a lot of social anxiety, there could be challenging behaviours, communication difficulties, all of those things that kind of added together mean that you're not enjoying everyday life, or the child isn't enjoying everyday life and they're finding things really difficult. So that might be why you would want to go to the doctor and try and get a diagnosis. So the first way of getting a diagnosis for under fives, you can either go through your health visitor or go to the GP. And again, the same for over fives, it would just be going to the GP. Now, you might get a referral to a paediatrician. You might also get a referral to CAMS, which is the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, and they would be able to make a diagnosis. Or you might be sent to a multidisciplinary team for an assessment. So that's what happened to my 7-year-old when he was 3. He just turned 3. He went to a children's centre for 6 sessions. I think it was once a week, probably about 2 hours each time. And he was seen by a group of different professionals. So he was doing different activities, having snacks, painting, doing little tasks and so on, while these people were watching. And there was a teacher there. There was a speech and language therapist, occupational therapist. Who else was there? There was a nursery nurse. So there were quite a few different people taking part. They then wrote a report, and that went to a paediatrician, and the paediatrician made the diagnosis based on that report. Now, for adults, it's a little bit more difficult. It really does depend on what's available in your area. Again, your first port of call is the GP, and it's worth kind of maybe looking at the adult autism strategy as well, looking at the local offer on your council's website. But if the GP says, I'm really sorry, there's nothing on the NHS, then you are probably going to be looking at having to go for a private diagnosis and having to pay for that, unfortunately. And again, is kind of weighing up the pros and cons of what could come out of that for you. So the main kind of reasons that you might want to go for that diagnosis is that there are certain charities and organisations that can offer a lot of help and support, but they may only be able to do so if you've got a diagnosis. So for children, there may be, respite services, there might be play groups and so on that you as a parent can take your child to and get some respite, but they would need that diagnosis. And for adults, for things like maybe access to work, for support, getting into work, or once you're in work, having support for you, and also, support and information for your employer, those will be available through having that diagnosis. So it's really, again, a question of looking at what is available in your area, doing a bit of a search and a bit of research really into what could be available to you. Um, but it's worth remembering, there is absolutely no shame in having an autism diagnosis. It's an absolutely huge spectrum. There are a lot of famous people and very, very successful people with autism, some really, really creative people. And if you get a diagnosis, you're not any different to the day before you had that diagnosis. You're still exactly the same person. The difference is you'll be able to get a lot more support and help. So in my opinion, it's been absolutely invaluable to our family having a diagnosis. Our son, obviously, as I said, he's had that diagnosis from the age of 3. We've been able to access at least 3 different kind of play activities that he probably wouldn't have been able to take part in if he didn't have that diagnosis. And we've had respite. We've been able to go through social services and ask for respite care as well for direct payment. So it really is very, very helpful, and I would recommend, just doing your research and really thinking hard about it. And it is a personal decision, but for us, it was definitely the right one.